Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me for another Batman review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 13, The 13th Hat. And this episode introduces yet another new villain, the Mad Hatter, portrayed by David Wayne. And I have to say his performance is fine for the most part. I don't really have a big issue with it. But I will say I felt like this episode was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I felt like they could have done a little bit more with the character of the Mad Hatter than they did. And I'll get into that as I go through what I consider to be pretty much an average episode all the way around. So the main plot of this episode is that the Mad Hatter is out of prison and he wants revenge on all the jury members that put him there. So he's kidnapping them, stealing their hats, and he also has this beam in his hat that shoots out this laser and kind of knocks them out, I guess, and then he takes them away. I do like this plot because it's different than other plots we've seen so far, even if it doesn't really go anywhere in part 2 of the episode. It's all mostly just a convenient way to get Batman involved in a fight with the Mad Hatter and his henchmen who don't do much as usual. And I have to also say it's very convenient that all these jury members seem to wear hats. That's kind of an interesting plot point. But on this show, you just got to kind of go with it. Now also, as usual, the Mad Hatter has a lady that works with him named Lisa, and she conveniently works with one of the women that was on the jury, a woman named Madame Magda, I think. So he uses this connection with Lisa, who's a pretty good character. I like the way she's used to kidnap Madame Magda, to get into her shop, basically. And I do like the way that this is done, as Batman and Robin don't know that Lisa's working for the Mad Hatter. I thought that was done well. So basically what happens is the Mad Hatter only has two people left to deal with. This sculptor and Batman. He wants Batman's cowl because Batman doesn't actually wear a hat, although that would be interesting to see if Batman did, I guess. So the Mad Hatter poses as this sculptor, basically. He uses his beam and knocks the guy out, and then he impersonates him in a scene I actually thought was a little bit long and kind of strange. I guess it wasn't terrible. It was just weird watching the Mad Hatter pose it as this guy. It was obvious it was a trick. It wasn't very convincing. So Batman comes in and, the Mad Hatter basically tells him he needs to remove his cape and cowl. And this ultimately leads to a fight between Batman, the Mad Hatter, and his men. And this brings us to our cliffhanger once again, where Batman basically gets covered in all this plaster. So once again, we don't know how he'll get out of it, basically. Hopefully he won't just use his utility belt again, but we'll have to see. So there's also this weird scene in the middle of the episode where the Mad Hatter kind of explains all this machinery he has, but it's only slightly used in part 2, and it felt kind of just like filler, but it was interesting enough. Overall, I just feel like this episode has some good moments, some slow moments, and I just feel like the Mad Hatter, they could have done something a little bit more than just have him shoot this weird beam out of his hat. With other villains, they've done a lot more interesting and creative things, but this episode's fine. It's an average episode that sets up part 2, which I actually think is a weaker episode. But this episode, The 13th Hat, is okay, and I give it a 2.5 out of 5. An episode fans of the show may enjoy, but others may want to pass on. So 2.5 out of 5 for The 13th Hat, and as always, thank you very much for watching.